Well, the attacks have put a spotlight on France's cultural and social divide. Many on the right have called for a crackdown on immigration and Muslim communities in France in the wake of last week's attacks. Al Jazeera's Jacky Rowland sat down with Marine Le Pen. She's the leader of France's far-right National Front Party, and she said the French government should be doing more to improve security.
Marine Le Pen, there was a security summit here in Paris. In your opinion, what should the French government be doing now to assure French people that they are safe?
The first priority is the immediate removal of Schengen, because you can't have security and control in a country without having any powers over our borders. It's impossible to stop illegal arms trade.
But you're talking about the European level. What, in your opinion, should be done here in France to increase security?
We have to go into fundamentalist mosques. We have to stop foreign financing of Islamist groups. We have to review our foreign policy and stop rolling out the red carpet for countries we know to be funding fundamentalism, countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
What you're describing sounds almost like a purge against mosques all over France.
You're mixing them up. You believe that all mosques are fundamentalist?
But you're talking about going into mosques?
Mosques where Sharia law prevails. They exist in France. Refusing to see that means that we do equate Islam with Islamic fundamentalism. We have to denounce and eradicate it.
Do you believe then that at a certain level the Muslim religion is in some way incompatible with French values?
There are some who believe that secularism and Islam are not compatible, but Muslims should show everyone that this is not the case. It's up to them to show that you can be French and Muslim and still respect secular rules. And for that we have to oppose all demands that aim to shatter secularism. Demands for different clothes, demands for special food, demands for prayer rooms, demands that create special rules that would allow Muslims to behave differently.
There were some suggestions that the National Front didn't represent Republican values. What was your reaction to that kind of criticism?
The President of the Republic called for national unity, and several political parties immediately expressed a will to alienate the National Front. Why? Because they are thinking of their electoral interests. That is the first thing they thought. It was not how to improve security for France and the French. It was to stop the National Front from benefiting from this attack. It was a shabby reaction, and I deplored it.
Marine Le Pen, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Well, earlier I spoke to French philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy, and I started by asking him about Le Pen's decision to stay away from the show of unity by leading politicians on Sunday, who all marched together through the streets of Paris.
One of the miracles of this gorgeous day of last Sunday is that Marine Le Pen was not there. She was inaudible. Nobody heard her. She was out of frame. She was out of the march. She went to march to demonstrate far from Paris in a city called Beaucaire. This, from her point of view, by the way, was very crazy, but it is a sign. The French people standing with the victims of Charlie Hebdo and with the victims of the Kasher grocery, they excluded, in fact, Marine Le Pen, even if she auto-excluded herself, but she was not in the game. I must add that the presence of some high representative of the Muslim world, as Qatar, the brother of Emir of Qatar, was a great sign, of course, was a great sign. It was brave to be in Paris, because Charlie Hebdo was not always very tender and was not, it is the least to say, was not always very sweet with Islam, with worshippers of Islam, and with Qatar. The fact that the brother of Emir of Qatar came to express, to participate to the mourning and to the sorrow was very brave for him, and was a good sign which was received as such by the French people. It was noticed, believe me. It did not go out of notice. So things are changing, and maybe nobody will, what happened in Charlie and in the Kasher grocery is terrible and the dead are dead. Nevertheless, sometimes a good comes out of a tragedy.
And let me just ask you, in your own words, how you would describe France's relationship with the Muslim communities today.
what struck me Sunday, this is what I can tell you, in Paris, was the cold blood of the crowd. There was 2 million people in Paris. There was not one Islamophobic slogan. There was not one billboard, you know, expressing any anger or whatever against the Muslim world. People know in Paris, people know that those jihadists are a tiny, tiny minority manipulated by Daesh, programmed by Al-Qaeda, but there are so few. All reasonable French people know that the huge majority of the Muslim community in France is faithful to the Republic, faithful to its value, belonging to this great country which they embraced and which has to embrace them too.